Roberts.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for appearing today. I'll go to the MRH 90 Taipan crash on the Whitsundays. We remember the aircrew of 6th Aviation Regiment, Captain Daniel Lyon, Lieutenant Maxwell Nugent, Warrant Officer Class 2 Joseph Laycock and Corporal Alexander Nags, lest we forget. The MRH 90 helicopter crashed into waters around Lindeman Island late Friday night, the 28th of July 2023, around 10:30 p.m. from reports. On the 29th of July, the search and rescue operation was still looking for missing aircrew at this point and trying to locate the helicopter. At some time on the 29th of July, the Navy was off on a maritime photo shoot. General Campbell, were there any Australian vessels at the Talisman Saber 23 maritime photographic exercise on the 29th of July 2023? Yes or no?
Senator, I haven't come prepared for that question, so I'm just going to see if any of my colleagues can answer. Otherwise, I'm going to have to take it on notice. We'll take it on notice, Senator, and try to get back to you as quickly as we can.
Thank you. I want to be clear, General Campbell. Late on Friday night, the helicopter crashed. On Saturday the next day, it seems that you could have had maritime assets off and away tasked on a photo shoot. What vessels were tasked to the Talisman Saber maritime photographic activities on 29th of July, if in fact any were, and why the hell didn't they have them? Weren't they tasked to the search and rescue operation? That's what I'd also like to know.
So, Senator, we'll take that on notice.
I asked you in October to give me a schedule of all vessels in the area of operations and exactly when each one was tasked to assist with the search and rescue operation. You said in question on Notice 23, quote, "Defence does not comment on the operational tasking of its assets," end of quote. You're not in the middle of a war. This tasking isn't sensitive information. It's a peacetime search and rescue operation. Why won't you answer that?
Senator, I'm going to have to return to that question on notice to understand the background for me to be able to answer your question.
Well, perhaps you could also think about, were you embarrassed about the ship not being engaged in the search area but off on a photo shoot?
Oh, look, Senator, that has never crossed my mind. I can get the answers for you, but I know that our people engaged in that exercise were very conscious of how to be of assistance in supporting that downed aircraft and the at that stage missing aircrew.
So in regard to the failure to provide the schedule of vessels, you don't get to say, "I'm not answering that question to the Senate," and I think it's time that you're reminded of that. You've refused to provide information to this committee and you do not have any public interest immunity claim lodged. You are sitting, therefore, in contempt of this committee. And it seems quite possible...
Senator Roberts, I think you may just want to withdraw that, but you know, unless there's some evidence you're trying to put forward, but I'd suggest that you probably reword that or rephrase that line of questioning.
Well, Chair, a witness is required to produce to this committee any information or documents that are requested. There's no privacy, security, freedom of information or other legislation that overrides this committee's constitutional powers to gather evidence, and witnesses are protected from any potential prosecution as a result of their evidence or producing documents to this committee. If anyone seeks to pressure a witness against producing documents, that's also a contempt.
I understand that, but I think it's a matter for the Senate to determine that. You can certainly put forward the case, but I just asked if you could just withdraw the assertion that the General is in contempt, because I think that will be a matter for the Senate to work at if we were to go down that path. But if you wouldn't mind, please just withdrawing that aspect.
Chair, the General has not provided a public interest immunity claim, and yet
it's not a debating point. I'm asking you just to withdraw so we can just move on, please, and you can continue the line of questioning.
Okay, I'll withdraw.
Thank you. Thank you.
Minister, you are well aware of the procedures around estimates. Witnesses cannot just refuse to answer questions or refuse to hand over information. They must ask you, the Minister, to raise a public interest immunity claim, and it's up to the Senate whether to accept that answer or insist otherwise. Why are you letting Defence run rampant and refuse to hand over information without even the courtesy of a public interest immunity claim?
Senator Roberts, I don't accept the assertion that, or that characterisation of the behaviour of defence. I think all senators are aware of the standing orders, and that's true for the senators on this side of the table and the senators sitting before us. CDF has indicated that he's willing to review the answer that's been provided. He's taken your question on notice, and I think your question went to the grounds on which the information was not provided, and he's indicated that he will examine that. And you've asked him to do so, and he's taken it on notice, and will come back to you when he has the information.
Thank you. Final question on the Taipans for now. I have to go to another committee. I asked you to give me on notice a list of every report or briefing provided to Defence or created internally raising issues with the Taipan helicopter. Your answer was that this would take too many resources to collate together. That really sums up the Taipan, doesn't it?
Senator, again, I think that that question really invites essentially speculation on your rhetorical position. If there is a specific question of fact or policy that you wish to address to officials, you should do so. But I think asking them to speculate about a rhetorical characterisation of a project isn't reasonable.
Minister, are you aware that the Defence had said it would take too many resources to collate a list of every report or briefing provided to Defence or created internally raising issues with the Taipan helicopter?
Senator, I will. Is there a particular question that you're referring to?
Are you aware?
Well, this committee asks many questions on notice and many answers are provided. Is there a number or a particular question on notice for which an answer has been provided in these terms that you can point me to?
Minister, I just explained it. I'll say it again. I asked you to give me
it's very
on
difficult
notice.
for me to respond if you can't even tell me which question we're talking about, Senator. I'm happy to look at it.
Okay, I'll get back to you on that one.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you, Chair.
No, that's all right. Thanks, Senator. General?
Chair, I just refer to, I think, the question on notice that Senator Roberts was referring to from the 25th of October 2023, page 52 of Hansard proof. And the answer was there were 6 Royal Australian Navy warships in the area of operation on the night of the incident. And Defence doesn't comment on the operational tasking of its assets, and that's correct, we don't. But, Senator, I just want to reinforce the assurance that every asset that could be of assistance from both Australia and any of our other partner nations in that exercise were tasked to be of assistance.
General, were there any Australian Navy vessels tasked at the same time on a photo shoot?
That's what I'll have to come back to you on, Senator. I think you were talking about the next day, the 29th, perhaps?
Correct.
Yeah.
All right.
While the other vessels were engaged in search and rescue.
Right. And I'll come back to you on that, Senator.
We can revisit that when you're back in the room, Senator Roberts.